We hope you're all enjoying this beautiful Los Angeles weather. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us this morning to discuss how the changing markets are affecting the real estate market, but more specifically, the commercial real estate market. We are very privileged and honored, I should say, to have two of our most experienced and successful commercial brokers in our membership with the Downey Association of Realtors. On our panel today, we have Samuel Ayoub, who's the owner and the broker of United Eagles Corporation. And we also have Gil Legaspi, who's the owner and broker of Legaspi Commercial. My name is Jennifer Avellan. I'm with Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles, and also your 2022 president of the Greater Downey Association of Realtors. And again, it's truly an honor to have both Sam and Gil today with us here. And it's also an honor to have all of you in the audience to participate in hearing the amazing things of value that both Sam and Gil have to share with us today. So let's get started. According to the Department of Real Estate, Sam, you were licensed in 1985. And Gil, you were licensed in 1999. In your 23-year career, Gil, how far into your career did you switch over to commercial, or what was that progression? Did you just start in commercial, or did you start in the residential and then made the switch over? And what triggered you to do so? What's your story, Gil?
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the board for putting this together. I think it's pretty awesome. Mr. Sam, we haven't met in person, but I have much respect for you. 37 years of consistency is amazing. And thank you, everyone who has joined us this morning. So
thank you, Gil.
Thank you, everyone. So 4 years into my career, I realized I wasn't being challenged anymore with the single family resident transaction. It was very satisfying to help first-time homeowners acquire a home with minimal down payment, sellers sell something smaller and buy a bigger home. But it got to a point where it was no longer challenging. And 4 years into my career in 2003, I was blessed to meet some folks that were ex-Marcus & Millichap brokers. For those that don't know, M&M is one of the largest commercial investment companies in the nation. They do a lot of business in our country. I started as an intern. I used to pick up their lunch. I used to drive them around. I used to faxes. Remember who remembers fax machines back then? And I used to prep all their proposals.
Gil, I still use them, Gil.
I used to prep all their proposals. I did everything they did not want it to do. I went through a 16-week program with them. It was very tough. Out of 24 of us, only 1 or 2 of us completed the program. In return, we were mandated to do 3 transactions with them in a partnership format. I ended up doing about 8 or 9 deals with them. I liked them a lot. I was learning a lot. And one of my largest and last deals that I did with my mentor, Rich Enderlin, was a 49-unit apartment building in the city of Montebello, 100 Rose Avenue in Montebello. We closed it at about $6 million. And that was really the turning point in my career. I realized that multifamily was something I grew a passion for. And I decided to just stick to it. And that's what I've done the last 18 years. 1 year later, after finishing the training program, I was blessed to acquire my first 6-unit complex in the city of Pico Rivera. The following year, I acquired another investment property, both of them with minimal down payment, one of them with seller financing. So that's pretty much how I got into it. Oh, Jay?
Sorry about that. No, actually, I had my I was on mute. Sorry about that, Gil. I was hoping that you could read my lips.
Oh yeah, I was trying very hard.
Sorry about that, everyone. Well, that's amazing. It's a nice progression, and I'm sure selling that 49-unit building really sealed the deal, right?
It really did. And I'll tell you now, my trigger, Jennifer, was again, I was no longer being challenged by the single family transaction process. I also realized that focusing on single family homes, I was only acquiring single family homes. I would that's all I was focusing on. So I realized that to be able to acquire multifamily income producing properties, that's the space I needed to be in. And so I have this weird little saying, you will acquire what you focus on. And that's what I've done for the last 18 years.
Did everyone hear that? You will acquire what you focus on. Gil's lasting words. Good job. Thank you, Gil. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Sam, you've had quite a track record in the commercial sphere as well. It looked like you started in 1985. What was your progression? Did you start off in commercial from the get-go, or did you start off in residential and then make the switch over to commercial? Let's hear what you have to say, Sam.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I actually started a year before I was licensed. And I had a mentor, very unique talent. He was an attorney with undergraduate in mathematics. And he, in 1984, he said, why don't you buy the building next to the one we bought, because we already ran out of money. It's a good opportunity. I said, I don't have money. And you don't have money. So he showed me how to put a partnership. At the time, I did not know that I'm putting together a syndication. So in 1984, I was 16 units here in Downey. And I bought it as a principal. Of course, his wife was my real estate agent, and nobody wanted to touch the 16 units for 6 months because it was a bad investment, or they thought it's a bad investment because it was running on 56% operating expenses, and the income was not there. So he said it's a good opportunity. It should be within 35%. So in order to prove myself, I bought it, and we turned it around in a year. And before I put it on the market, I figured out how much of a commission I'm going to be getting. At the time, I was working full-time for the county of Los Angeles, right here on Imperial Highway. And the commission was 1.5 times back in 1985 of what I was making annually. So I hurried up, I got my real estate license and sold it. And from that point on, the return on the investment for the limited partners or silent partners was a 43% in 1 year. So I was told you have put together a successful syndication. I said, what syndication? They did not know that I'm putting syndications, and you do not need a license, real estate license for a syndication. But from this point on, using the simple track record, I went on to buy syndications 2 and 3, and I haven't been in the residential arena. It's not my talent. By education, I'm a mathematician or engineer. So I was from the get-go a commercial person. And
Amazing.
went on to put more syndications for the rest of my career.
Sam, do you want to share with the audience? A lot of the agents or those that are participating are not familiar with the syndication. Do you want to share with the audience what is a syndication?
The syndication is a big word for partnerships. when there is a partnership and there is a designated individual or entity which manages this group of investors, sometimes in the legal terms is called sponsor. A syndication is any group of investors where they pool their money together and therefore they get the power of bargaining and good management. So that is a definition of syndication. And people who, from my classes, convinced of syndications, they made a lot of money. They are good syndicators. Some of them actually in different states now. One of them moved to Texas and put a syndication. Syndication is a good way of putting money together. So if you don't have money like I was when I began, don't give up on acquiring big properties. And I always teach in my classes at the end because everybody says, talk about syndication. So I devote like 30 to 45 minutes about how to structure a syndication.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So basically, everyone, Sam was able to create an opportunity despite not having the capital at the time. He saw the opportunity and he pooled other people's money together, and he ended up owning a share of that property despite coming in with little to no money down by creating the syndication. Also, what I noticed, both you and Gil and Sam, is that part of the success in the commercial real estate was having a mentor. It seems like that's a recurring theme for both of you.
Definitely.
Like they say, you become the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. So you definitely want to surround yourself with someone that really, really knows the industry if that's something you're looking into.
It's really true.
Absolutely.
Sam, do you want to share with the audience, because you saw an opportunity that others didn't see with that 16-unit building? What did you do, or what did the syndication do in order to create an upside, or basically turn it from something that wasn't profitable to a profitable building, just to give the audience an example?
Okay, basically any investment which I specialized in multifamily because that's my comfort domain, is to control the expenses. Expenses typically in California, it's different in Texas because I practiced in Texas. I was licensed there for a while. In California, the operating expenses should not exceed 35% of the operating income. So the operating income was not up to par because it was neglected. So the ownership could not raise the rent. So the income was not there. The expenses was mismanaged. The owner was a brain surgeon, not there all the times. So the expenses instead of 35% was 56%. When you're looking for anything, look for a bad property, because everybody said this is a bad property. You cannot make money if you go to a good property. You need to go to a bad property where the income is not up to market rent and the expenses is higher than what is acceptable in California, and then turn it around and convert it to what is called a performing asset.
Good job. Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. So, gentlemen, basically, our residential market has shifted. We've been talking about a shift for quite some time. We're finally feeling that the impact of that shift. We're starting to see a lot more actives on the market. When we would run comparables on a property, we'd see that there'd be only maybe one property, sometimes no actives on the market. We'd have a good amount of pendings and a good amount of solds. Now we're starting to see more of a balance where you're seeing, similarities in the amount of properties that are active compared to those that are actually sold. And right now we're seeing almost nothing pending. So we're definitely feeling that shift. How is this shift affecting the commercial real estate market? Let's get started with you, Gil. What are you seeing in the commercial real estate market? Are you seeing a shift there? Is it in different submarkets? Is it affecting the submarkets differently? What are you seeing?
Absolutely. I without a doubt, we're feeling the pain. What happens on the residential side usually follows to the commercial side as well. It just takes a little longer. So not long ago, when rates were 2-3%, we would have many offers on a very attractive 10-unit apartment building, for example. As we all know, rates have gone up. The debt on that building now has gone up. And of course, that's pushing the NOI lower. And investors are taking a step back and not being as aggressive. Sellers are at some point, in some cases, having to adjust their cost per unit asking price. Not long ago, the third quarter of this year, the average Southeast LA area was about 296. Prior to that quarter two was 292. So we saw a trend still going up. Q4, we're starting to see that plateau and no longer go up. People are being a lot more careful. However, I would say we've had 2 deals recently where the buildings were awesome, well located, lots of upside where the investor is able to acquire the asset, bump up the rents, and they see a long-term investment. And those are, did get multiple offers, which was very interesting. Buyers they do have a little bit more control now. We're on the buyer side. We've repped a couple of the deals recently, investors where we were able to get credits. I couldn't remember the last time we were able to get credit. We were even able to get on a couple cases a haircut on the price. I couldn't remember the last time I had done that. Certainly not the last 5-7 years. Now, the sellers are not giving away the buildings yet. Okay, a lot of them have a lot of equity. Many of them bought it at the right time. Many of them gave a good 30-35% down. So they're enjoying lots of equity. And lastly, vacancy rates are still extremely low, very low. We're fortunate to manage about 300 plus rental units. That includes our small portfolio, syndicated deals, and investor-owned properties. Well, my point is, we had two vacancies recently. Okay, on average we had 80 to 90 families calling on those vacancies.
Wow.
And we were able to bump up the rents much higher than before. The effective rental amount for third quarter of this year for a 2-bedroom in our community is $1,437. Quarter before was $1,426. Quarter before was $1,320. So rents are still going up. And it's amazing to see what tenants are willing to pay for good rental units.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Gil. Did everybody hear the prices of rents that are going up? What is your area, Gil? You want to share with everyone? Is it East Los Angeles?
Yes, absolutely.
Or is it LA County?
We like Southeast, right? So we consider it the 605 corridor. Any community that touches Downey and so on and so forth. But yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to see what's going on. And I'm fascinated to see what opportunities come around. I think Mr. Sam and I would agree that good opportunities are coming. And for those that have been very patient, that have been raising money, hopefully good deals will be coming soon.
Well, I think if they reach out to Sam, he can maybe give them some insight on forming syndication so that they can be ready in case there are some good opportunities that come up, right?
Sure, anytime. Yeah, my experience is a little bit different because for the past 10 years or so, as I came back from Texas in 2011, I decided to share my experience, and I found a big audience. So I have done some deals, but the majority of my time is spent in fine-tuning my platform of education. You can make good money if you have the experience and the ability to produce educational material. So I'm not hands-on a lot in the market, but because of my connections with people, like Gail mentioned, I have good working relationships with Marks and Millichap, particularly the one in Newport Beach. So I hear, and I have to follow up. I am a member of the CCIM, just a member. What is happening in the market? I've been through 4 different cycles. I started in the mid-80s. So I have seen that happening. There is a difference, of course. Sellers are not willing yet to give much because they have good equity, and when they borrowed, the criteria for the lenders was very protective of both the lender and the buyer at the time when they were buying. So it is a solid, whatever they have, it's a solid investment. It will not, if they don't have to sell, they will hold, and it will just live off the cash flow. My experience is that there are 4 main types of properties are reacting different. Types is a sector. There's 4 main types in commercial real estate. Multifamily is 1. Office buildings is 2. Retail is 3, and industrial warehousing is 4. Multifamily in California, may God bless California, is a bulletproof. So people, I have heard recently, people are willing to put 70% down, because even though if the property is not, at par to their standards, they have the vision of converting it to a performing asset. So they're willing to put the 70% because they know that the income is low, and they know that the expenses is high. So they buy on pro forma, but they know it's not any kind of pro forma, it's their pro forma. They know what they will turn it around. One good thing about commercial real estate, residential is out of necessity. I have to buy a house. My kids have to go to certain school. The orientation of the kitchen and the backyard is important. It's a little bit more emotional. But in commercial, people who get into commercial, I would use the term, with liberty. It basically becomes addictive. They cannot let go of a good deal if they see one, even if they have to go borrow on their existing assets. So if you start getting into commercial, or at least test the market as a residential person, we'll talk about that later. Always there's something happening in commercial. So far, multifamily or apartments is not taking a hit yet, or even not even affected. The one next to that, which is still in demand, is industrial or warehousing, because of the transportation logistics. Amazon and other companies are looking for places to warehouse, so the transportation will not be dependent on 500-700 miles. So the demand on industrial is still high. The one hit the most is office buildings. Remember, there are 4 types or 4 sectors. That's the one is getting the hit because people are shrinking. I can have my people work from home. I need smaller place. The one which is got potential, is got hit, but not quite, is retail or shopping centers. They will exist because an owner of a restaurant cannot say, I'm going to take my business and run it from home. So there is a demand. There is a lot of talk now about converting at least part of the retail to affordable housing, which is, down zoning and so forth. So on top, bulletproof is multifamily in our state, particular southern part. Next to that is industrial and warehousing, and UCLA always produces a lot of good reports about the market trends. So the third one is okay, but you have to know where the investment is. Commercial is not just a commercial. Multifamily would be here now today more long time been through that 4 cycles, 80s and early 90s and the beginning of the 2000s and the hit of the 2007 and 8. And now we're talking about another cycle. So look at multifamily. Apparently, Gil and myself are multifamily people, and so are a lot of people getting into from residential. They look at the multifamily first. Yes.
I think you're pretty much right on the money, Sam. I mean, based on what you're saying and based on what Gil said regarding rents, I mean, we're having a shift on the residential side. You're seeing, prices finally, becoming normalized, possibly even going downward. Yet the rents, he said, over the last 3 quarters has consistently gone up. So there's a disconnect between buyers versus renters, right? So if you're a renter, there's an incentive there to purchase because your rents are going to continue going up, right?
And if you're
Absolutely.
a buyer and you can afford the house, guess where you're going to go? To an apartment.
Yeah.
So I hate to say it, but what is happening in the residential, if it slows down, people have to live somewhere, particularly commit to a school district or whatever their circumstances. So the demand on apartments is increasing.
Definitely. I know, and we're going a little off topic, but you did mention the opportunity for retail and shopping centers. And I know that they've been hit. You mentioned that they've been hit out of the 4 different areas or markets. What do you both see for some of those old shopping centers that have pretty much died down? You see, like the one in Puente Hills. That's a pretty much dying infrastructure right there. What do you guys see happening to that? I know there's a lot of talk about converting those things into like mixed use buildings where it's part residential, part commercial. What are you seeing on that arena?
So I'm sorry, Mr. Sam, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Gil. Your turn.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So here's what I see. The bigger shopping centers, the bigger malls will continue to suffer. I believe they'll continue to be hit with online purchases and online retailers such as Amazon. I believe that the smaller community neighborhood shopping center will always be okay. We need to take our shirts to the cleaners. We need to walk into that liquor store and grab milk at 10 at night for the kids, right? I had the pleasure of having lunch with this folks, Optimus Properties. They own the shopping center on Washington and Rosemead, and their shopping center is doing well. But all the services and products they're offering is what the community needs. They walk there, they drive there, they live in the community, they're invested in the community. They're even doubling down and building a gorgeous 6-story, 255 unit mixed use project right next to their shopping center. For those that remember El Rodeo restaurant, That's the location where they're developing. They're almost done with the entitlement process. They wouldn't be reinvesting into the community if they didn't believe the small shopping centers will still be okay and they're going to be safe. I'm concerned for the large malls, for the large retails, for the large, what we like to call big box. I believe they're going to continue feeling the pressure of the economy.
Awesome. What are your thoughts, Sam?
So mixed use is the love of a lot of cities, because if you go to convert an existing shopping center to a mixed use, you still have the shopping center, and you still have most probably the workers in the shopping center living upstairs. So there's no issues with transportation, gas prices. So cities encourage mixed use. And that is going to take place. It's going to take some time, development and conversion and so forth. Cities, however, are very protective of their commercial or retail in particular. I have argument with some people in this city some time ago said, we want to preserve our commercial areas because that's where the jobs are going to be generated for people who live in the apartments to work. So we cannot just give up and keep building apartments where the jobs are going to be. So that would made the retail sector survive or in a better shape than office buildings. But still the demand on multifamily and industrial warehousing is higher. But the conversion in whether even small or medium or large, we used to say this is a triple net, because usually tenants in that space are triple net. You're familiar with that, Jennifer, right?
Yeah, of course.
And they pay everything, including the maintenance, utilities, even the portion of property taxes and so forth. People were looking at that as a retirement income. They don't have to worry about management. They don't have to worry about income versus expenses. So they're just getting a check, and that's good for retirement. That's being shaken a little bit. But with this adjustment we've been talking about, I think they will survive. Office buildings, I think it will come a time where people will use office buildings for different reasons. But from the beginning, I owned an office building here in Downey in the mid and early 90s. When vacancy takes place, it takes long time to fill the space. And whomever tenants comes, I had an insurance company leaving and a group of doctors coming. We're paying the rent per square foot, but we want examination rooms here. We want receptionist area here. So if you're not deep pocket, you cannot afford what is called the TIs, the tenant improvement. So this logistics will always face people who are investing in office building. But in California, we will survive. I encourage people to just keep their chin up. They are members of a board which offers continued education about commercials. If you don't fall in love with commercial, at least you know. And there are ways of doing that. I guess it's coming into discussion in maybe the next segment or so.
So at the end of the day, there's always opportunity, whether you decide to go into it or educate yourself so that you can go into that industry. Good job.
Yeah.
And I one thing I wanted to highlight about what Gil said, I know he mentioned about the strip centers and how some of them are doing really well. I guess it just boils down to the importance of picking the right tenants, right?
But it really does. Going back to what Mr. Sam mentioned as far as office space, we manage 18,000 square feet of office space in Pico Rivera. He is absolutely correct. Our bigger spaces were suffering because people wanted less space. They sent a lot of their workforce to work from home. So upper management, they made the smart decision to create smaller space because a lot of businesses still need a business address for Google search purposes, for delivering of UPS, for just meeting with clients. So a lot of smaller space, a lot of WeWork environments where they're sharing space, a lot of creative office spaces going on. So a lot of people are pivoting, I should say, into smaller WeWork open floor plan concept. What will never go away, in my opinion, is the need for medical. So if you have an office building, many people are doing what it takes to also add the medical component to the building. Therefore, you could attract that clinic, the dentist, the chiropractor, that will always be in demand because, of course, we're all getting, unfortunately, older, and there's always a need for medical services.
You can't outsource the teeth cleaning, right?
You can't do it at home. You cannot do it at home. In that building that we manage, we have 3 dental practices. We have a clinic on the first floor, lots of essential services. And that's the reason we're 98% occupied. On the 3rd floor, smaller space, more executive style suites. And people are paying actually a lot more on a per square foot basis because the space is smaller.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gil. Now, both of you have gone through a few real estate cycles. Where do you, I know Sam said he had been through 4. You've probably been to maybe 3 different real estate cycles, Gil, yourself. So where do you both see the market going in the near future? Gil, let's start off with you.
So I remember 2001, 9/11, 2008, and of course we just went through our beautiful pandemic years, right? I believe rates are still going to be an issue, okay? Until the Feds are able to control inflation, they're going to continue, bumping up the rates. That's going to be an issue. Overall, whether it's micro or macroeconomic in a sense, the economy is still going to be it's going to be challenged for a while. In my world, my biggest issue is rent control. My world, meaning the multifamily side of it. I believe that's the biggest issue that my investors, my sellers, and the folks that we're putting together to syndicate, we're always going to be looking at more carefully and closer because that's actually affecting the building where it's located, right? We can't control what the world does, and it's very hard for us to control what the Feds do, right? But what's happening in our backyard, it has an immediate effect on that investment. For example, we all know we're all still under statewide rent control, right? The good old AB 1482, 5% plus CPI with a 10% cap overall. Recently, Bell Gardens passed their own independent rent control. I immediately received phone calls from a couple of our investors whom we managed their building for. Why did this happen? How is this going to affect our investment, right? Some of these folks are elderly. They depend on that income. Pomona just also went through their own independent rent control. Besides the statewide 1482, that's both of them, by the way, are 4% cap. Bell Gardens is 4% or 50% of CPI for that year, whichever one is less. Pomona is 4% or CPI, whichever one is less, right? Baldwin Park passed their own. The unincorporated part of LA County, of course, has its own mandated rent control. So I don't see that stopping, as much as I hate to admit it's going to continue to be an issue. And we all need to be understanding of it. And we need to, when we work on our projections, on our setup sheets and our 5-10-year projections for our clients and our own portfolio, we need to understand that's going to continue being a challenge. Why is it a challenge? It's because if investors and as brokers were capped as to how much we could increase the rents, that's going to have a big effect on how we manage, how we maintain, and the capital improvements we're going to continue to invest into the assets. I think it's a mistake for cities to do that because it discourages investors from investing into their buildings because they're not bringing in the income that they deserve. So with that said, it's a challenge. I will agree with Mr. Sam. We still live in beautiful California. Look at that. Look at that weather. You can't get that in Florida. You can't get that in many other places in our country. We will always be high in demand. People will always continue to migrate to California, especially LA County. We have 11 million people that live in LA County. We're going to be okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Gil. I'm glad you brought up two important things, especially when it comes to rent control. We talked about this actually at our board of directors meeting, because I think there's a big misconception about, a lot of people, they don't care about those that own apartment buildings or these big multinational corporations that own these big buildings. But at the end of the day, I think people don't realize what percentage of multifamily properties are actually owned by smaller individuals, like mom and pops. What do you know the percentage of multifamily buildings in LA County or maybe even California that are owned by mom and pops as opposed to big corporations?
I'll speak for our company
Portfolio.
Portfolio, 300 plus rental units, both 80% of it is multifamily, the other 20% is office, small and couple industrial buildings, so on and so forth. They're all mom and pop, Jennifer. They work their butts off to put together their 25, 35% down payment. Many times they refi their home. Many times they work very hard to just give that down payment. And now they're being mandated not to be able to enjoy what they invested into. And it's very unfair because labor is not going down. Home Depot prices are not going down.
Utilities are not going down.
Utilities are not going down. Now, I do believe in helping people. I myself come from a low income background. I grew up in South Central LA with very minimal resources. So I believe in helping, but I also do not believe in hurting people that have invested and it's just not fair to them. The mom and pop people that have expenses and those expenses are not dropping. So to answer your question, I'll speak for what I know, and I could confirm in our company, they're all mom and pop investors. Maybe Mr. Sam has data on the county or the state.
Awesome. One other thing before I jump to Sam for that question is one thing. This is something else that we talked about with the board. Gil, you mentioned a lot of cities that are implementing rent control. You mentioned Baldwin Park. We know Pomona, Bell Gardens. So I think one solution to that is encouraging or voting for candidates that are real estate friendly or encouraging those in the real estate community to run for office. We have someone in our office who's running for city council on Bell Gardens. So we really need to encourage those that are in our industry to run for office to prevent these things from happening, or to vote for candidates that are real estate friendly. So thank you so much for sharing that, Gil. Sam, what are your thoughts on the near future of the commercial industry?
I agree about the vision of the government. I worked for the government for 27 years. And when you talk any business sense, they remind you that they're not in the business of making money, they are in the business of spending money. And one place I found, and I was getting an excellent advice, the minute I owned apartments, I joined the local apartment association, and they lobby a lot, and they have connections. Actually, the apartment association is everywhere in the country. Apartment Owner Association USA, AOA USA. They lobby very well. The thing of it is about the restrictions on the owner and the rights of the tenants. They talked about 2 out of the 3 involved parties. They never ever touch upon the lender. So if the owner has to work with the tenant, reduce or freeze the rent, what about the mortgages? Because a lot of properties have been highly leveraged. I would say highly nowadays, in today's terminology, anything over 50%. Some of the owners, when they bought it with 80% leveraging. This has gone away, thank God. But one thing which they are so protected, the lenders. When you freeze or decrease or give a moratorium on not paying the rent, the lenders are not being told anything. If they are told anything, so they are the favorite kid, and we have to bring that it is at least a 3-party involvement. When you tell the landlord, this is common sense, have nothing to do with party affiliation or business or non-business. If you are telling the tenant you have the right not to pay the rent, and you're telling the owner you have no right of evicting a tenant because of lack of payment, what about the mortgage? And the last thing, the government, at least that's what they advertise, that they want to see any real estate on the inventory of a lender, because experience have shown that FDIC and parties in control, that lenders are not good property owners. Actually, don't want to go any further. So when we say, let's say, we form something called Californians for Business. That has nothing to do with party affiliation, and it's for California. Because if you keep chasing people out of California and saying these are the corporate big fat owners, and you're leaving one important element is the lender. Lenders will be happy to serve the notice of default. They will be happy to take it on their books, and they don't know what to do after that. So we're not protecting the owner, we are protecting the economy as businesses who care about California. You have to remind whether local or, that's why all my life I tell everybody, and I myself, when you see the ratio, because this is published, of tenants to owners, closer to 50%, be careful. Because at one point when they reach 51 or so, there will be a lobbyist and the first thing they do is rent control. But it's now, it's too late. At least we should lobby that the feds or the state or the local to the best interest of the three, because once the bank owns the building, the property will go downhill in no time because they're not in the business of managing or understanding anything about the business, but they enjoy doing it. I hate to say it, and who are the people making decisions in the bank? People who got promoted from being a teller to whatever.
Yeah, with no experience in real estate, right?
Yeah, they just,
Absolutely.
even business, but they're making the decision. So we have to tell the government, and the message should be, there are three main components: tenants, owners, and lender. And if you're gonna talk, you better talk to the three of them at the same time and have the rules apply, but you just cannot squeeze the owner.
Very good point, Sam. Thank you so much. So we're going to be wrapping up shortly. We're going to basically ask you one last question. We're going to do it as briefly as possible. So if you can sum it up in, a few sentences, and then we're going to open it up to the audience for questions. So both of you, if you could give the realtors or those that are here on our call today, or our Zoom meeting, who want to get into the commercial real estate, they like what you've had to say so far about the commercial real estate industry. They want to learn more about it. What advice would you give to those that are looking into getting into that industry? Gil, let's start off with you.
I would say don't do it because then you'll lose your hair. Look, I used to have a lot more hair. I'm just kidding. Get a mentor. Get a mentor. Get a mentor. Mr. Sam and I both agree on that. Get a mentor, because your mentor will jumpstart your career and the way you think about commercial real estate. Get training. Mr. Sam, the little that I've researched about your program is, I love it. Sounds like you put on together a great training opportunity for people. I would encourage everyone to call Mr. Sam and do his training. Get ready to make the phone your best friend. This bad boy. We hit the phones every single day in our group, every single day. And those folks that are not part of our company, that are part of other companies, we also offer mentorship, and they come here and they hit the phones and they do well. Get ready for long days. Talk to your spouse, because this is not a 5-hour or 6-hour or 3-hour business. You need to put in a lot of hours. I'm still the first one to get here, and I'm the last one to leave most of the time. Save a lot of money. I would say save at least 12 to 18 months of both your personal and your business expenses, because it'll be a while till you probably close a deal. And the last advice I would say is do it for the right purpose. Do it for the right purpose. Do it because you want to help the investor. Do it because you are looking to acquire investment properties. And once you acquire the investment, don't sell it. Keep it, because that will become your 401k. I don't know about you folks, but I don't have a 401k. I had to create my own, and by owning rental properties, you're able to create that 401k.
Great job, Gil. So we have save, buy and hold so you have passive income, a mentor, get trained in education, and be ready to sweat, to work, and put in the time. No sailor drowned in their own sweat. Thank you so much, Gil. Sam, what are your thoughts on what advice for those that want to go into the commercial industry, how to make that transition?
My thoughts about residential people expanding to commercial is that it's within them. They have the ability to sell. So I do not know. My observation that people trying to completely migrate to commercial is going to be tough, because the majority of the commercial companies, Marks and Millichaps and the CBREs and Sperry Apprentices and what have you, they will tell you that whatever you have in residential, you just leave it at the door. And then they ask you exactly like Gail said, they ask you plan to budget, have reserves for approximately 12 to 18 months, and not everybody have that. First of all, defeat the fear of commercial. And everybody I hear, so far, I have over 3,000 people graduating or taking my classes. I do not like math. There is no math. And it just, the simple addition, subtraction, very simple. So defeat the fear of commercial and know that you have the talent. If you know how to sell, you can sell anything. It's just a matter of be careful, acquire the education the proper way. I know that we're squeezed for time. I had somebody once, and maybe it sounds funny, but it was painful at the time. He says, I almost got the listing for that $5.5 million property until I told the owner, I promise you, I will list your property and I will sell it for the highest cap possible. Cap is the capitalization rate. Highest cap possible is the lowest price. So you imagine somebody is going to give a $5-6 million to somebody is going to do his best to sell it for the cheapest price. I mean, be careful about these definitions. Don't do these silly mistakes. Learn, and once you learn, go more generic initially until you mentoring. I had a mentor, may God bless his soul. I owe him everything because until now, I mentor people the same way he mentored me. To think as an
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome, Sam. Thank you so much. So in addition, again, Sam's saying the same thing about the education, the mentorship, similar to what Gil had to say. Also the same thing when it comes to being patient. It looks like success in commercial real estate doesn't happen overnight. That's why they're both recommending that you should have a 12 to 18-month reserve saved to cover your expenses. And also if you have a business, your business expenses as well. So let's open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask Gil and Sam before we wrap up? Jeanette, do we have any questions?
No, I don't see any yet, but I do want to mention that for the members to look out for the flyers on Gil's monthly hybrid commercial training. He takes one subject a month and reviews it in the class, and it's a lunch and learn too, so there's always pizza there. And then Sam normally schedules a quarterly 2-day training on commercial, so the members should look out for those flyers.
Awesome. Well, since it seems like we don't have any questions, I wanted to thank both of you. Both Gil and Sam, you did an amazing job. That information that you shared with everyone was very valuable. We loved hearing your stories. And we're looking forward to seeing you at our future classes. Both Gil and Sam both have classes, as Jeanette said. Just keep an eye out for those. I'm sure they're going to be advertised in the MLS when you log in. Also in the Today's Matters emails that go out on a weekly basis. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience for participating today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. And this was
Thank you.
recorded as well. Jeanette, where can people watch the video that for those that weren't able to participate today?
It will be in our Today Matters in 2 Mondays, and also then planted in our YouTube.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jeanette, for hosting the event today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Gil. Bye, Sam. Bye, Jeanette.
Bye-bye.